This is Sara with Posh Pish Designs, and that's Maximo and Rosie. They're showing you our new car blanket. This is the perfect size car blanket for sitting on the seat, but it also fits perfect in the cart at PetSmart to keep their feet from getting hurt. Fits great in their crate, and also works great just to put under their water dish. So here is the dog rug or mat or blanket, whichever you would like to call it. We added a little bone applique and the paw print applique, and this is stitched with 2 strands of worsted weight number 4 yarn. The mat measures approximately 18 inches long and 22 inches wide. And of course, the way the pattern is written, you can make it as big as you want. It's a really simple pattern. It's all stitched in double crochets with 2 strands of worsted weight yarn. So what you're going to need to make this mat is just some assorted colors of worsted weight yarn. And what I do, some of them I put into some of these cakes that I make, and some I just use that are rolled up in balls. And what I do is I just hold 2 strands together, stitching tightly to make the rug. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. You're going to need probably 4 to 6 ounces, depending on what size you make and how tightly you stitch. We're going to be using our J hook today, and our J hook is called the J10 6mm, and we're using the J because I want to pull those stitches in tightly so that we don't have any holes for toenails and teeth to get through. You'll also need a needle with a big wide eye because we're using 2 strands of yarn. And you'll also need a pair of scissors for cutting your yarns. To stitch or crochet using 2 strands, we're going to hold them together. And as we crochet, we'll move our hand down, making sure we don't get any loops or bumps or gaps as we work. We're going to begin with a slip knot. And then we're going to chain 47 chains. Now, if you want to make your mat bigger, you'll need to chain 3 chains per inch, approximately. And I say approximately because everyone's stitch is different. And I want you to stitch this particular project a little bit on the tight side. If you're already a tight crocheter, then you're probably set. But someone like me who's a loose crocheter, I'm going to tighten up a little bit. So let's chain 47 chains, making sure that we hold those 2 strands together so we don't get any lumps, bumps, or gaps. And I just kind of pull it along and keep going. So we're going to chain 47 chains. I chained my 47 chains, and now we're going to turn. And this whole project is basically stitched in double crochets. So what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. To stitch a double crochet, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook and then go in that 4th chain with your hook and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull your hook through the first 2, yarn over, and pull your hook through those last 2 loops. The chain 3 counted as 1 double crochet, and then we stitched 1 double crochet. And we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each chain across. And make sure, if you are a loose crocheter, that you stitch just a little bit tighter. Like I said, that's why I chose to go with the J hook, because we don't want any loose holes or places where our dog's toenails, or even our cat's, because this is a great mat for a cat as well. Like I said, we don't want their toenails or their teeth or collars or toys to get caught in holes between the stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet across. I stitched 1 double crochet in each chain across. Now we're going to chain 3 and turn. And the chain 3 does count as your first double crochet. So we won't double crochet in this first stitch because our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So now we're going to double crochet in the next double crochet. And then we will double crochet in each stitch across. Now I'm almost out of my brown yarn, and I want to show you, but since we're using our leftover scraps to make our fun mats, I want to show you how to change colors in the middle of a row or stitch, because it can be an issue. Your colors, you're using 2 different colors, and they may not end at the same time. And so I want to show you what you can do when you go to change colors. I still have plenty of yarn on my pink, but my brown is now out of yarn, and I'm going to join in my teal color. So what I do is called the Russian join. I learned it as just how to join yarn. So what you do is you take your one color and you put it on a needle, and you just turn and make a few stitches right in that yarn, going through the fiber like this. And I put my finger in this hole, and then I pull that thread through, and that makes a little loop in your thread. All right, now the color that we want to join, we put in that loop. Then we thread it onto our needle, and we do the same thing. We turn and we make a few stitches going through the fiber of the yarn. And then we go ahead and pull that one through. So now it looks like we've got 2 loops, and you just take those 2 tails and gently pull those together. And that makes a nice seamless stitch or seamless join. And then I'll cut those tails off just a little bit short, not completely off, but just a little bit short. And then I can just stitch right over those. Let me show you, because we're going to continue on making 1 double crochet in each double crochet. And see, I'm just going to continue on with my double crochets. And this eliminates having to weave in ends later. And also, because your yarn sometimes doesn't end at the same time, it makes it a lot easier and joining in. And you can do that, and then you can just keep right on going with your project. And this is a great way anytime you're making anything where you have to change colors to do it that way. Now I do go back and sometimes I'll give it a good hard yank, and then I'll cut those edges off all the way once I've stitched through, and then I'm done. It's going to stay put, and you're not going to have to worry about that coming undone. All right, so let's go ahead and finish our row of 1 double crochet in each double crochet across our row. I have completed the second row of 1 double crochet in each double crochet. And this is the way this pattern will continue to go. You'll stitch a chain 3, then you'll turn and you'll stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet across, and you'll repeat this for a total of 22 rows, counting these two, so you'll have 20 more rows. Now this is going to get you, like I said, a rug that's about 18 inches by 22 inches. If you want your rug to be a little bit deeper, you can certainly add more rows. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got 2 rows done, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat 1 double crochet in each double crochet across, turn, chain 3, 1 double crochet in each double crochet across, turn, and chain 3 till I have a total of 22 rows. And then I'll show you how to do the trim and talk about the bone and the paw appliques. As you can see, I really had a lot of fun making this mat. I added some variegated yarns along with some solids and just really made it extremely colorful. And you can never have too many of these mats in your car. And so I always like to have several, and it's a great way to use up your leftover worsted weight number 4 yarns, whether they're variegated or whether they're solid. I've got my 22 rows all stitched. And so now it's time to put on the trim. And the trim is super duper easy. We're still stitching double crochets. So let me put my hook in here. And we're at this first corner. So we're going to stitch 3 double crochets right in this first corner. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And we want to stitch 3 double crochets in each of the corners because that's going to help it just move around that corner nice and smoothly. I stitched 3 double crochets right in that first corner. So now I'm just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet across, just like we have in the previous rows. And we'll do this till we get to the other corner. And when we get to that other corner, we'll do the same thing and stitch 3 double crochets in that corner. So let me get across this row. There we go. I'm stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet across. So I have stitched down the top of my mat or my rug, and now I need to place 3 double crochets in this next corner. 1, there's 2 and 3. And like I said previously, this just helps the rug trim move gently around the corner so that your rug has nice rounded corners. All right, so this next portion we're going to be stitching double crochets down the side of the rug. And this can be a little bit confusing, but don't let it frustrate you. The best way to stitch on the double crochets is to try to get your stitches in the sides of the stitches themselves and not in the holes. Now there may be times when you have to stitch in a hole to get your stitches close together, but try your best not to have to do that. And you're going to have to eyeball it and see how close your stitches are laying, and be careful not to put them too close and not to put them too far apart. And remember, we don't want any holy spaces that dogs' toes and teeth can get caught in. So I'm going to continue stitching down the side of my mat until I reach the next corner, placing my double crochets in the sides of the stitches, trying not to stitch in the holes. I stitched my double crochets up to the next corner, and then I placed my 3 double crochets in that corner. And again, I'm going to stitch 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and we'll repeat 1 double crochet all the way across, 3 double crochets in the corner, and then we'll stitch back down this side till we get to the first corner. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet. I'm going to stitch 3 double crochets in the corner, and then stitch down the side the same way we did this side. And then I'll come back to the first corner and I'll join. I'll be able to tie off and we'll be finished. If you need to pause the video at this time in order to catch up, that's a good idea to do that. I finished stitching on all 4 of the sides and the corners, and I'm back up to where I started with those 3 double crochets in the corner, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch, and I'm going to cut off my yarn. I'm going to go from behind here and pull that string to the back. And I'll need to take my needle and weave that in. But that is my finished mat, all bright and colorful, and I just love it because I love bright colors. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is the appliques. Now, I sewed on a paw print and a dog bone on this one. I think it would be lots of fun to make these for different holidays or different times of the year. You could put a fall leaf or a pumpkin. You could do a turkey, Christmas trees, snowmen. This could just be so much fun. And because you're making them out of worsted weight number 4 yarns, they're totally washable. Now, if you want to make the paw print applique, I have one here. I'll put that link right up there in the corner, and you can just click that, and that will take you to the paw print scrubby. And it's made exactly the same, just use your worsted weight number 4 yarn. I'm going to show you how to sew it on. I'm going to thread my needle. When you make it, you're making it with 1 strand of worsted weight yarn. And make sure when you tie off that you leave a long piece of yarn for sewing it on. And I'm going to put it in the corner like I did the other one. And you can just decide where you want it. You can pin it in place if you need to. I don't. I just go underneath and I hold it down with my hand. And I just follow the stitches around the edges like this. And just stitch that on. And I might run out of yarn and need to add some more, and that's okay, because I want to make sure it's going to stay put, especially around those little paws at the top. And so that's what I'll do. I'll stitch around all the way around all these little paws until I'm happy that it's going to stay on there and stay put. Now I do like to make the appliques in a solid color so they'll stand out and be seen, especially when I do one that's as colorful as this one. I like to have several of these mats made because I like to take my dogs with me everywhere. And when I go to PetSmart or Lowe's or Home Depot, I like to put these in the bottom of the shopping cart. And that way their little toes going underneath here so I can sew that little pad on a little bit tighter. There we go, so you can see what I'm doing. I want to make sure I get the little edges on that little toe so it stays put. And make sure you sew through stitches. But anyway, like when I go to the feed store, or I take my dogs with me anywhere I can, weather permitting, that I can take them in the store. And this is a great mat to put at the bottom of the buggy or the cart, whichever you call it, for them to stand on. It's a great mat to put in their crates. It's a great mat for in the car, or any time you're having someone else watch your dogs, and or even if they're at someone else's house, for them to feel comfortable, because dogs are scent creatures and they want to have things with their scent on them to help them feel comfortable. Now I'm not going to go ahead and sew completely all the way around all the toes, but that's what you'll do. I have to add some more pink yarn, and then I'll come back around and sew around all the toes. But you want to make sure they're staying down, staying firm, and I even go up through the middle and sew a few stitches here just to make sure that that's going to stay put. All right, so the other applique that I sewed on was the dog bone. And I've got one here for you. And again, this is the dog bone that I used for the dog bone ornament. And I'll put that link right up there in the corner as well. Just click that link and it'll take you to the pattern. And this one is done with 2 strands of worsted weight yarn. And what I do is, after I have it made, I tie off 1 strand and leave 1 strand for sewing it in place. And again, you can pin it down or not. I just don't. But if you feel more comfortable, you want to use a couple of pins or a needle or something, you can just pin it down and pin it in place. And again, I just go through the blanket. Make sure you go through stitches again. If you go through holes, it may not hold. And then I just go around, stitching around those edges. Where the top stitches are. Whoopsie doopsie, there we go. So that it holds the shape of the bone. So I'm going to have to make some more of these and make them holiday themed, so when I go into PetSmart, my dogs have a holiday theme mat to sit on. And it's one of my favorite things to do, is to dress my dogs up in their nice sweaters that are holiday themed, and to take a mat in there and shop. I love PetSmart. It's one of my favorite places to go and take my dogs. So anyway, that's how you attach these appliques, and you can just click those links and it will take you right over to where these appliques are, and you can follow those patterns to make them. So this is our car dog blanket or mat that you can make for your dog. Now remember, if your dog is bigger, add more beginning chains and make the mat longer with more rows.